welcome back. I hope that you've enjoyed the work of Magali Datzira. And now let's shift gears and transition into the first workshop of Jazz I Am. We'll explore the different aspects of managing oneself as a musician, like, what does self-management entail and what impact does it have from a programmer's point of view? And I think also you'll be getting some practical tips as well. And so let's welcome our two speakers. First of all, we have Noam Vazana, a self-managed artist from the Netherlands who toured the US and has toured around Europe, and also Steve Mead, the artistic director of the Manchester Jazz Festival in the UK. So we're about to start. Just remember that you can interact and participate in the workshop through the chat that will appear on your screen. And pay attention because some of you might be able to actually do some role play with the speakers. So let's do this. Steve, Noam, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Elliot, and welcome everyone. Hope you're having a great Jazz I Am. It's very nice to be introduced with some relaxing background jazz there. It's the first time we've had that pleasure.
Elevator music.
Elevator music, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Again, thanks so much for spending the next hour with us. My name's Steve Mead. I'm the artistic director of Manchester Jazz Festival, and this is...
Hi, I'm Nani, and Noam Vazana, as Ellie said, is my full name. I'm an artist, and I'm a self-managed artist since, I think it's 16 years already. Yeah, I'm based in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands.
And Nani, how did we meet? Can you remember? What was it like?
We met at a speed dating session at the In Jazz conference in 2016, I believe.
Yeah, and it went a little bit like this, didn't it?
Hi, I'm Nani.
Hi, Nani. I'm Steve. I'm from Manchester, where it rains a lot.
Well, it rains a lot here, so I kind of identify with your dreary weather.
Great, we've got a connection through the weather already.
Yeah,
so what do you do?
And British people and Dutch people love to complain about the weather, so that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. The weather is the biggest part of our lives.
Yes.
So what do? You're here at this speed meeting and you come see me.
Well, I'm playing in this festival tomorrow night at 9:30. I have a showcase. And I actually only heard about the speed dating last minute. So I read about the biographies of everyone and you looked interesting. So I thought I'll say hello.
Thank you very much. That's very flattering. You look very interesting as well. So you've got a gig, but what do you actually do? What's your music about?
I compose new songs in an ancient language called Ladino. It's the language of my grandmother, and it's also the language of the Sephardic Jews from the Iberian Peninsula in the Middle Ages.
Wow. And what do you play?
I play trombone and piano, and I sing.
Wow. At the same time?
Yes, actually.
You play the trombone and the piano at center. Do you need a license for that? Isn't that dangerous?
Yes. Otherwise, they don't let you do it. No, but I have a specially custom-made stand that they prepared, especially for this purpose.
Well, I don't think I've ever met anyone who plays trombone and piano. So what is this? This is tomorrow night at 9:30?
Yes.
Oh, great. I'll make sure I come along to this. It sounds fascinating. So
nice.
Yeah, really pleased to have met you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Oh, and you. So that, in a nutshell, that's how Noam and I met. And it was about 4 or 5 years ago now. And it was actually the start of a working relationship that's seen Nani play at my festival. We commissioned a piece from her last year. And we've also been doing these workshops together because we figured out that there was a place for a promoter and an artist to be talking together, to having a dialogue about opening up the conversation between what our priorities are, what your priorities are as an artist, how to get those connections if you're representing yourself, if you are making your own music and you don't have management or agents working on your behalf. And that's something, Nani, you've done a lot of in your career, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that there is a big gap in our industry between the artistic let's say content creators and the educational roles people that kind of do audience development. So I would say programmers for that sense. And there is not really a dialogue that is streaming between these two roles of the industry while they should be talking to each other, because this is how you create new art together. So when I used to work with agents and with managers before, I always felt that something was missing because I was not involved in the creative process, and I also felt a little bit out of control, the direction of where my career was going. I was signed to a label, and they mainly pushed me to manufacture radio ready products, and not so much they were not so much about the artistic development or about creating content that has a theme. And for me, I like creating content on a theme, and I felt that it was an aspect that I wasn't exposed to enough in my
Yeah.
career. So I started to take off from the label and do my own thing. So I released my first record on my own, and luckily the audience embraced it. So the first crowdfunding campaign was really successful, and ever since I've built a community, a music family, I call it, of people that walk with me wherever I go.
And that's what we're going to be talking about for the next hour or so, isn't it? We're going to be, I suppose, sharing some of our experiences and tips about what I'm looking for as a programmer, and what people like you and Nani can do to, I suppose, improve your chances of getting a dialogue that ends up being meaningful in some way. It might be in the short term, it might be in the long term. We do have a presentation for you, which we've prepared, but we're going to do a little bit of visual and a little bit of chat as well between us. But I just thought I'd because I could share this presentation with you. I'm also using this rather nifty tool that translates what I'm saying into Spanish.
I
Now,
wonder what nifty means in Spanish.
yeah, well, yeah, someone's just found out. But if this works, then great. Sometimes the translation doesn't work very well, and it just translates it into Spanish as some kind of nonsense. So if I end up talking gibberish, which I normally do anyway in English, you'll know. So that's who we are. I thought we'd have I've got to start this slideshow. What we'll be discussing is, as I said, what does it mean to be an artist that manages yourself? How could you connect effectively with programmers and their audiences critically? And also, what's the impact of the perception of being self-managed from a programmer's point of view? What do people like me think of artists who self-manage compared to artists who have agents and management?
Yeah, I guess it depends, of course, on how well you do it. Like, for instance, I have a podcast that I broadcast once a week. It's called Why DIY Music. And then I keep on asking people, I usually interview people from the music industry, and I have this question: do you prefer to work with artists directly, or with agents, and why? And the common thread that goes through all the answers is it depends how well they do their job. So if you do your job well, I mean, you don't necessarily need an agent, but you would have to develop that skills. So if you're looking at their slides at the moment, we're going to touch basically many subjects. For the artists now, I think the main struggle is that you don't have direct communication lane, neither with your audience or with your peers. It's also one of the reasons why I started my podcast, because, for instance, music conferences are canceled at this time, or that they're transferred, like Jazz I Am, to an online module. And the conditions that we have to create our music now are perhaps slightly more favorable financially, because some governments offer support for new projects. For instance, in the Netherlands, where I'm based, we had of course, these grants were oversubscribed. I know that in the UK, you had that opportunity as well. I know from friends in Germany who do the same thing and even got grants to produce a new album. And looking at the income streams that we have to our disposal at the moment, like the whole live industry kind of vanished for us. So we don't have the opportunity to perform live anymore. However, we do have a lot of online possibilities at the moment, and I've used to utilize these origins of income in my work. So I perhaps we should talk about that as well, how to monetize your digital assets. Um,
I think we're going
And
to
if
come on
you,
to that, aren't we, later? And
yeah,
also, just to touch it on the point of view of the promoters. So the promoters have also had a struggle. They've had to deal with a lot of change and challenge, and you've probably seen a lot of promoters are focusing less on international and more on local and regional. So how can
yeah,
you work with that? And any live events that have been able to take place have been subject to sudden cancellations. So it's been really
yes,
difficult to plan. And the costs have gone really high because all the promoters have got to take care of streaming costs, bringing a crew into the venue, cleaning equipment and things like that. And at the same time, there are fewer people able to fit into the room. So the ticket income has gone down. The bars are shut because they can't serve drinks. So we can't earn money from that. And all the sponsors have disappeared. So it's not a great economy at the moment. And then from the audience point of view, there's a lot of fear about coming back into theatres, into venues,
yes.
about how safe it's going to be and what are the measures. And also I've noticed, I don't know about you, Nani, that attention spans have got shorter, haven't they, as we've put more and more online and there's been more and
Yes,
more available. So
it's
we've
true.
got to cater for a different attention span.
Yeah, but of course, it depends how you release your music. For instance,
Mm.
if you do live streams on your, let's say, on your profiles or your pages, channels, whatever it is, then, or release clips, then I would say keep them shorter than 20 minutes. But if you're doing an online concert, like I'm hosting online concerts 3 or 4 times a month, and these concerts are between 1.5 and 2 hours long each. People are craving the live experience, and they are somehow more committed into staying there during the whole time. Once they bought a ticket, they will stay for the entire event. So if that's my grain of salt that I could share, as far as
Yeah.
online events are concerned, once you have an event that is ticketed online, really invest in producing a good and good length as well of an event.
So that's the bad news that you all know we've got to deal with. There is some good things that you can be doing because
Yeah.
some things about music, some qualities about music making still remain the same. Nani, do you want to talk us through these? Because I think they're quite important to reassert, really, that people still turn to music for enrichment in their lives, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, since the pandemic started, people have been using a lot of culture to get through the day, I think. So, like when people started posting on social media at the beginning, all these articles from the newspapers, from their countries, what are the top considered professions that you have to invest in and not furlough at the moment? And everybody was talking about doctors and brokers and lawyers and these kind of professions, and artists always came in last. They're like, artists are not important. But can you imagine spending lockdown without Spotify, without Netflix, without books, without any movies? How would you entertain yourself while you are bored? So art has become a refuge in this time to a lot of people. And you can see that also in the messages that you get. Like for me, I get, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 messages per day from fans that are listening to my music. And before it was like, hey, thumbs up, this is great. We love you, we do this, da, 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 da. But now it's become um, more intricate. There's more content to the message. So people start telling me about their personal experiences with this song. For instance, 2 weeks ago, I released a new video on YouTube, and somebody wrote me 3 different messages from the same person. And she said she was listening to the song as she is recovering from a surgery. And she told me about what happened to her and how the song helped her get through the days of the recovery. And she just had the song on repeat for a few days. And this is an amazing experience for an artist, because like when you release a song, especially when music is such a lonely profession, you think that your input in the world is very small, because it just reflects your own emotional standpoint at that time. But then it touches people and it changes their lives in ways that you will not be able to predict in advance. And I think that's beautiful. So this pandemic time actually gave me an insight to the lives of my fans. more
And
closely.
you made a direct connection, and they made a connection with your music. And that,
Yeah,
just talking about the next point about connections, which are really
yeah,
important for all of us. The what COVID has done is actually brought people a lot closer together.
yeah,
And everyone's your neighbor now, aren't they? Wherever they live,
yeah,
because they're just immediately available in front of you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
And
when I finish an event, like when I'm hosting an online event, I did one yesterday, and the last thing I said at the end of the concert was, we always say we don't have enough time to do the things that we want to do, but now we do have time,
yeah,
and this is the opportunity to do it. So if you haven't called your parents yet this month, or you have a friend you had a fight with, make up now, pick up the phone, take whatever voice over IP program, call them up and figure it out. Now is the time.
and with time on your hands, artists can also be working on their, what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about now, their USP, their unique selling points, can't they? Because I think this is something we really drive home every time we do these
Yeah.
talks. What, as an artist, what is the one thing about you that only you do, only you have? And to take you as an example, Ani, you are the world's first original Ladino artist.
Yeah.
That's quite a that's a big deal, and no one else fits that bill. So everyone watching this webinar, you're in control of this, your identity as an artist. You know what that is, and you have the power to convey this, to identify what it is. So I think that's the one of the main things that, if you haven't done it already, to think about, because people who make decisions on your music about whether to book you, program you, take you on tour, whatever, they'll all want to know what that USP is, because they've got to sell that USP to their audience in order to get people connected. So you have the power to define your USP, your unique selling point. And it could be anything about your music, about you, about your background, your approach that makes you stand out. And as I say, it's something that is quite powerful, and you have the power to change it. Should we talk about making approaches to programmers and promoters, Nani? Some key things that we know and we always experience when we're in these kind of networking events in a conference. There's some things up there on the screen, for example. Do you want to talk about doing a research, for example?
I think one of the main thing for artists is getting after gigs, and I've been doing that for a long time myself because I wanted to perform as much as possible, and also it gives you the most experience and also the most income. So like performing is a big deal for an artist. So I was busy with pursuing the amount of gigs that will be on my calendar, but in this time I'm not able to do that. Um, what stands out the most when you send out an application is how well thought of your research was for that specific festival or that specific venue. Because if you do send a generic email saying like, "Hi, dear sir or madam," and by the way, I get these emails myself, which I find very strange because I'm an artist myself. It's true, I have founded my own booking agency, but this booking agency books my own projects. I don't book other artists. So people see my booking agency online. They see that they only represent one artist, and they also see that I'm the CEO. So you can see that in the comments. So then they send me an email saying, "Hi, we really like the general feel of your company. Would you like to book us?" I was like, "Well, first of all, what is the general feel of my company?" It's a very general term. And second of all, if you asked me to book you, you obviously have no idea what I'm doing. So I would say do your research properly and make sure that when you approach a festival or a venue, you make them feel that you want to be a part of their program, that you've thought it through, that you know who you're approaching and what you are suggesting. Like, I wouldn't approach, like, for instance, with you, Steve, for instance, I never asked you to play at the Manchester Jazz Festival with one of my programs because I knew this is not going to work. I, I, we just became friends, and then you suggested to do a commission with a collaboration with a local artist, which I really like. I love collaborations. Um, so being open to making something new is probably a big deal while you're doing your research and when you're approaching venues. And also, if you think about a new concept and offer a venue or a festival a special piece that is written for them, they will see the value of your offer higher than other offers. They would actually feel like they are getting a commissioned piece without having to invest financially in a commissioned piece. So they will feel that you're walking the extra mile for them. You're thinking with them, you're getting involved in their program, and probably this will also give birth to a longer collaboration and a sustainable relationship rather than this one-off gig that that might or won't happen.
Yeah. And doing your research is all about targeting your time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't waste time just scattergun sending emails out to every single promoter on the
Yeah.
database. Actually, look at the programs,
Yeah.
see if there's a commonality with your music. Are there other artists a little bit like you not like you, but performing that you connect with?
Yeah.
Is there something about this program that you want to be on that you would go and see? And then invest that time in cultivating a longer term relationship with the decision makers and the programmers
Mhm.
there. I think it's much better to approach it that way and have your message really clearly stated,
Yeah.
and have a style of communication as well that's really um, open and friendly and not all about you. Actually, it's a dialogue rather than just an assault of
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, and having your brand ready, all your messaging, your media, all being export ready, as it were, and your online presence, and an image that suits your music as well. So thinking about your photography, your video settings, everything that represents your music should make sense and feel right for you as an artist.
Yeah.
And something else we see quite a lot and is really effective is actually what you guys are all doing now. You come to Jazz I Am, you've come to a trade fair. I know it's online. It's a conference, and actually there are going to be lots of people like you and like me here. So it's very efficient
Yeah.
to engage with events like this because you get to target quite a lot of people in one go.
I think there's one thing with the digital conference that is slightly different. I mean, for me, it's a big difference than the live one, is that when you approach a new person online, let's say you send an email to a venue and you say, "Hi, this is who I am. I'd like to get in a dialogue with you." Um, and then you go to a trade fair and you meet them in person, that's a completely different experience. So you have the personal connection that is created in that moment. But when the conference is online, it's a bit more difficult to break the barrier of the online communication, because what is actually the difference between sending an email, a random email, and sending a message through the professional portal? I mean, that's it. Of course, people are there to listen because they're more open to listen, but they are still receiving your message online. They don't get the entire package. They don't see you. And I think for me, the digital conferences are working a little less well than
Yeah,
the actual real life ones.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
all new to us, though, isn't it? We're all
yeah.
trying to make it work for the first time, really.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, it's brilliant the way that you guys do it, and I've been watching some of the videos on Jazam. It looks amazing,
yeah,
but still, the personal connection. It's the same with the live show. Like I'm doing a lot of online concerts, but it cannot replace the live factor of the gig, because
yeah.
it's this extra, the X factor is not there. The personality doesn't go completely through the screen as it goes from on stage.
And as you make
Yeah,
as you attempt a lot of these conversations and connections and dialogues, you inevitably are going to get more no's than yeses.
sure.
So you have to get used to the no and the impact of a no and what it might mean. And I always think of a no as a not yet. It's not a no, never. It's a not yet. The
Yeah,
time isn't right. And maybe it just takes a little bit more research, persistence, presence to turn a no into a maybe and then a maybe into a yes.
yeah,
So always think long term and don't be put off by an immediate lack of response or a no if it
yeah,
is a response.
yeah,
And we talk here just about planning, having a campaign, having a plan, and breaking up your plan into small steps so that you feel like you're achieving something when you've achieved one step, and you're working towards bigger goals, but in small steps.
Yeah.
And identifying your targets. Again, find out who the best person is to contact and what's the best time of day even to email someone.
Yeah.
You know, they might be working a lot in the early morning or after work in the early evening. And actually, people quite often respond straight away when there's not much else going, not much more traffic going on in their lives. So capitalize
Don't email
on that.
people at Monday morning.
Yeah, Monday or Friday afternoon. That's a really bad time to try and contact someone because they just want to get into the weekend. Showcasing opportunities when they come back, and they will come back. Getting onto a country-specific showcase or something like that is such a good way to expose your music to many, many ears because it's so efficient. You know, people like me have attended things like Jazz I Am to hear lots of music in one place. I only have to go on one airplane to get there. It's so much easier than trying to get one gig in a country and then try to invite lots of people to that gig. So apply for showcases, be part of, make sure you're on invitation lists and lists that distribute opportunities, and just apply to as many as you can. I think that's a really positive way. And also hooking up with people who have influence, who can actually vouch for you and speak on your behalf to their peers. So who might I know who might be interested in your music as well? Because we all talk to each other. I talk to other promoters, you talk to each other's artists. I might encounter some artists whose music isn't right for my festival, but is right for one of my peers or colleagues doing something else. So you never know where your information is going. Once it leaves you, information it just exists. It's like music, it floats in the world, and other people can be grabbing hold of it and passing it on.
Yeah. And I would say, if you network, doesn't matter in what scenario, if you go into a conference or you meet somebody randomly, or you're going online, or you're writing an email, doesn't matter in which way, don't aim to network. Don't aim to make a professional contact. Make a friend. Aim to start a dialogue, aim to start a conversation that is genuine, and you really have an interest in your counterpart of the conversation, so the person you're talking to, and you don't know where it's going to lead to. Like, for like I'll give you an example from Rosa. That is, she started Jazz I Am, and we met in Jazz a couple of years ago, and we didn't have like a long conversation or something, but then we met a few times in different other conferences. We became friends, and now we sometimes have drinks on Zoom. And she doesn't book anything, so she doesn't help me out with my music. But for instance, a couple of months ago, I needed to do an application to a festival in Catalonia, and she helped me translate the application forms for the festival, just because she's my friend, and your friend will help you out. And when she needs something from me, of course, I help her out. So if you make this type of connection, um, worst case scenario, you'll make a friend. And this is, for me, not a worst case scenario at all. It's the best case scenario. You just enlarge your family in a way when you do that. Think about it this way.
And who doesn't want to be friends with Rosa?
Exactly. She's awesome.
She's awesome. She's gorgeous. She's well connected. When you make your connections, there's an art to behaving and speaking, I think, that some people have. Some people still perhaps need to do a little bit of work in it. But there's something about being brief and memorable and enthusiastic and polite and not overloading with information. There's a combination of qualities there which I think works really well. So if you can perfect some or all of those qualities when you are connecting with people like programmers like me, you'll find that a lot more productive, I think, if you can nail those qualities, and making it easy for people to respond to you. So being personal and make it really clear how people can get back in touch with you, whether it's by email or through their web or social media platforms, whatever. And Go on,
Actually,
yeah.
interesting because I've seen like a lot of conferences where people have showcases and the
Yeah.
plaster the walls with posters, and you have a beautiful photo of the band, the date and the time, and the location, but the name of the band and the website are missing.
Ah,
So there is no way you know which band it is, or find a way to get back to them if you want, or connect with them if you wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And following up as well, because often your first moment of connection is only the first moment. It's only a spark, and the
Yeah.
spark always needs following up, doesn't it, to remind
Mm.
people. But there's also an art to reminding without being a pest. Do is just maybe follow it up about 2 weeks later with a reminder email. Just not giving people an ultimatum, but just reminding them that you met them. And have they had a chance to listen to your music yet? Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, that magic phrase "no" equals not yet. Always have that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. But that being said, don't pester people. So
Yeah,
don't write people every 2 weeks. Hey, did you listen to my music? Because that's difficult too. You will
yeah,
be marked in the spam list very fast if you'll do that. I would say wait for if you do the follow up after your first email, ask the person if they allow you to put their email address in your newsletter, and just starting sending newsletters, including them, and next time that they have an application time slot, so let's say next year, there would be probably a month or two when you can do applications for their festival, approach them again in that time.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip, actually. It's a
Yeah.
way of keeping them connected almost without them realizing. But it's obviously,
Yeah.
with approval. And yes,
Yeah.
staying polite, staying persistent.
Yeah.
And there's something about understanding what a promoter would have to do in terms of taking risks if they did choose to program you, because
Yeah.
you might be an unknown artist to them and their audience. So they are going to take quite a big risk if they're going to choose to program you. And by understanding the level of risk that a promoter would have to be taking in order to program you, you can help them with that. You can help with a lot of messaging through your own channels, a lot of promotional, providing as much in terms of media content for them as possible so that they can
Yeah.
promote it far and wide.
Important to say that you should not provide this information by email and block their email address
Yeah,
with all files. Like just have a link ready that they can access all the files on that link. And
yeah,
if you do send a WeTransfer or something like that, make sure it doesn't expire after a week,
yeah,
because a lot of times these people will only, like, you would send the I don't know, the media like 3 months prior to the gig, and they will only have time to download it 1.5 months before, and then we'll go to the link and they will say, well, the link expired, and they would have to email you back to say, hey, can you send me the media again? And that's already making a bad impression.
yeah.
Yeah.
Done that many times, yeah.
Yeah.
And so having a professional page, a tab on your website where all the large files are saved,
Yeah.
so the
That's what I
large
have.
videos and
I have a pro zone
images.
on my
Yeah,
website. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's a
People
really
can
good,
log in and
really
yeah.
good tip. Um, Something I always kind of flag up here is actually if you are asking a promoter or a programmer what they think of your music, are you really ready to hear what they think? Because often we're it's a very difficult conversation to have if the programmer doesn't think it's very good, doesn't think it's right for their club or festival, or
Yeah.
thinks you're not at the right stage in your career to be doing it. It's a very difficult position to have to adopt when you're in front of an artist to say that kind of negative message. So don't put yourself in a position where you're asking that question, because it's not a comfortable environment.
Yeah.
And if the promoter tells you the truth, are you ready to hear it? Are you ready for someone who programs 100 gigs every year and attracts 100,000 people to a festival to say your music isn't ready, your music isn't good enough, you need to
Mm.
do better? You don't want to be hearing those messages, so
Yeah.
don't put yourself in a position until you know you're confident that
Yeah.
it's the right time and the
And
right
also
place.
take criticism with a grain of salt,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
sometimes you might not fit a certain festival, but that doesn't mean that your music sucks. I've
yeah,
had my
yeah,
fair share of people hearing a lot of venomous reactions to what I do, because I think it wasn't good enough, or that shouldn't do it in this way or the other way. I had even one of my teachers at the conservatorium tell me that it wasn't too late for me to switch to another profession, because I will never be a musician. So when you have people like that in your
Yeah.
life, I would say don't listen to them, cut them off. I mean, cut the criticism off. Don't You don't necessarily don't have to hang out with them. You can still hang out with them, but don't listen to these things that they say. Filter what is the right approach for criticism, and if there is something you can actually learn from what they said, and not don't dwell on the negative part of the criticism, for
Yes,
that sense.
ideally, everyone
Yeah.
should be their own best critic, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
You should have awareness.
Yeah.
Um, Narnia, you've done a lot of international touring. I just wondered if we could have a look at what an international career might look like right now. Um,
It means insomnia.
yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, COVID's shone a light on so many
Yes.
things, hasn't it?
Yeah, I really hope that this light will not be shown anymore,
Yeah.
because I really miss touring. I just can't wait to get on the road again. I was doing an interview this morning about this new song that I'm releasing together with a Samaritan friend of mine. We did a collaboration that includes a few religions, and we were releasing a song that will depict a few cultures. And they asked me from the newspaper what was my point of view, on like, why am I doing this? I said, well, I'm doing this because I want to get places. The place where I feel home is on the road. They asked me if I'm rediscovering my home through the song, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm rediscovering my home when I'm traveling. Um, so in my work, I've already developed a system that allowed me to tour more freely. At the beginning of my career, I've performed 6 years entirely solo, basically because I didn't have the budget to hire a band or pay for their travel. And that made me a better performer, and also easy to adjust. So I've had so many occurrences where I had to um, get to a new place, take a 14-hour flight, have a 2-hour rehearsal, and then a gig. And that became out of the necessity of having to do that. That also became a way of work, because in the last 2 years, I've been touring for 400 days. So there is no way that you can get, even if you have a budget, unless you're Paul Simon, to get a band to commit for you for 2 years. It's just not going to happen, because people have lives and children and other gigs and stuff like that. So I ended up working with 17 different musicians last year, hiring them locally wherever I went. So I had two bands in the US, I had three bands in Europe, and then I had a few other bands. I had one in the Middle East, and we went to India and to Vietnam with another trio. So there was a lot of collaborations with locals. So if you can develop, especially now in Corona times, I think even when we will get back to performing live, we will probably have to downsize our formations, because people will not pay for a big formation anymore because the budgets are cut, and also more people on stage means less people in the audience as far as safety. So if you can develop your solo or duo or trio skills now, I would invest time in doing that during the pandemic. So you will be prepared to whatever befalls you afterwards.
So developing different scales of your output that's more tourable. Because the other thing
Yeah.
that COVID has taught us is
Yeah.
what we're doing to the planet, and with all these kind of flight paths that
Mm.
just we're going crazy. We were all part of that because it became a sort of assumed necessity that that's how we all did our careers. But I think there's something about efficiency, about, as Nani was saying, working with the local musicians to the extent to which you can, and engaging or trying to set up those mini tours within local areas when you get there, so you're not going over the other side of the world to do one gig. And
Yeah.
it's just thinking a bit more outside of the box about what are we doing, with our lives and to the planet. Yeah,
Yeah.
having a plan. We talked about having a plan earlier and
Yeah.
knowing what you want. which is critical. If you're not managing yourself, if you're not, sorry, if you are managing yourself, if you haven't got a manager, then you do need to know what on earth you want and what you're going to do and how you're going to get there, and what the steps are. And they might be very simple steps. They might be that your plan is to, be having 2 or 3 bands or outputs or channels of music that are different from each other, and you want to be playing 20 gigs a year across Europe with them. That might be your plan. And so it's about identifying that and what steps are that you need in order to put those plans in place. And the root of all those is going to be building relationships, as we were saying earlier. It could be relationships with your fellow artists, with programmers, with networks, with people like Rosa. So invest the time in building relationships as much as you invest time in your art and your music.
Invest your time in building an army of roses.
An army of roses. Yes.
I want an army of roses.
Yeah. When she listens back to this, she's going to be she's blushing away.
That's all right.
And doing your research, a reminder to do your research, because just target the people who are most likely to respond to your music. That I can't stress that too strongly. And what also, if you are looking internationally, what can you give to international programmers that they can't already get in their own country? So we don't want just like various replications of things that we already have. We want certain qualities. We want a difference for our audience, because our audiences are expecting something different from someone who travels. If someone's coming all the way from Spain to play in Manchester, they don't want to hear something that another band in Manchester could be doing. So show us what you bring to the table that's different. Nani, do you want to talk a little bit about live stream? Because this has gone crazy in the past 8 months, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And monetizing it specifically as well.
All of a sudden, as a musician, you had to be a sound engineer and a filmmaker and an editor and knowing about lights, and also investing like 4,000 euros in equipment. And it's been a hullabaloo of a time. It's like I was very lucky because I already started building a home studio as far as audio is concerned. I didn't have any filming equipment or lights, but I've already established my home studio in the 2 years prior to COVID. I've assembled some equipment and I've learned how to operate it, and I learned how to mix with Logic, and it helped me a lot to be prepared on that sense. But I didn't know anything about live streaming. I had a very bad internet connection, and somehow the lights were always wrong. And the camera, of course, you have a problem with the camera, because if you're filming with a phone camera or with a computer camera, you have issues because they can't record more than half an hour at the same time. So you kind of had to shape up as a musician. So I had a learning curve of about 10 weeks where I was giving a live stream concert for free every Monday night piano bar. And during that time, I've developed the equipment and the skills to be able to produce a professional live stream. In a way, it opened another aspect of my career, because now I'm being hired to produce live streams for other people. So like I'm doing the East West Orchestra, and I've done the Arabesque Festival, and in 2 weeks I'm producing a big event here in the Netherlands, like the end of the year of the SIA event. So there's a lot of things that are happening in that field. Most important thing to focus on is, how do you get to your audience? I would say once you've started live streaming, and how do you produce a worthwhile experience that's on the social side, and then on the professional side, how do you monetize that into actual income? So I see a lot of people that are doing donations, and for some people it works really well. For me, it didn't work that well to do the donations. I've done that for the first 10 weeks, and people did contribute, but it was very little. And the amount of time that was invested into the stream by the audience was not as committed to my stream. Like when I was producing a live stream, I was working on it for 10 hours. and they would just chime in for 10 minutes, say hi, and leave. And for me, that was not a good enough feedback. I wanted to have more of a live experience that I have with the audience. So I've started streaming ticketed online concerts where people buy a ticket in advance. So that means they commit to the stream and they will be there for the entire time, 1.5 hours, whatever it takes. And it also means that you know how much income you're going to have for that stream in advance. So all these things sum up to the ability to monetize your work. I would highly recommend to do ticketed live streams uh, more than investing in your social media outlets um, per se. With free live streams, I would say utilize the free live streams to get audience to your ticketed live streams. So don't give it all away when you're doing live streams on social media. Maybe perhaps at the beginning you have a learning curve as well, so you do a few weeks when you stream all the time and get experience doing that, and then convert into live streams. And these streaming services such as YouTube, Spotify, etc., don't earn you a lot of money. So um, I personally don't like them. I know it's controversial. So I don't have all my music released on these platforms. I have um an online store on my website, and people can buy downloads of my music or order CDs online. And I think it's more viable. Like it's a more stable stream of income to do it like that. I've grown my online sales in like 3,600% since I've started doing that, comparing to income I've had from streaming services before.
And something I've noticed about your shows, Nani, is that you make them look so easy, because you've probably got quite a simple setup there, because you're at home, you've got your piano, your trombone set up on your mic, but you make it look, because you've done it a lot, you've got into the habit, you're relaxed, you make the audience feel relaxed because you know what you're doing, you're in control of all the knobs and twiddling things, and you just get on with it and you perform, you know, to the best of your ability in front of the laptop camera to hundreds of people. But I just wonder, because there are other little skills that all musicians need to be thinking about, like to camera skills, you know, which they didn't have to think about before, because suddenly cameras are in their faces if if they're doing a stream, whereas before it was just a live audience, maybe, you know, 50 meters away in the audience.
Yeah. And also presenting in front of a camera is very different than presenting in front of a live audience. Yeah. So playing to the camera, you have to know what works, what doesn't work. You shouldn't move too much because the lighting on you will change. So you have to fix your stature in a way, because otherwise, like if I do this, you see there's a shadow on my face, right? So I have to avoid that. If I'm moving here, you see my backlight. So so like all these things you got to figure out before you go live to do a professional live stream. So I would say practice, and make it perfect.
And there's no applause, is there? You have to imagine the applause, and that's quite a big deal for
and if there are comments coming from the audience, they will come with at least 40 seconds delay. So let's say you're asking a question. It's like, hey, which song would you like to hear? And then you're waiting for half a minute and nobody answers. So you think, oh, nobody's watching. And then you start playing another song. And then you have 10 people saying, hey, I would like that song. It's like, because it just arrived with a delay. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And just to recap, we covered quite a lot about international work previously when you talked through, but about having that fan base outside of your country, having all your materials ready for export, and that kind of sustainable income that you talked about, and the lifestyle choices. This isn't something we talked about, is it? Because it does bring into play how your life is going, because you're going to be away from home for long sustained periods, aren't you? And there are implications there. So have a think about what you actually want out of your music. You know, do you want to be on the road for half of the year and away from home, and what that means to you? So there are some profound choices to be made. It's not all sort of glitz and glamour on stage, is it? You know, well, it's about 5% that, and probably 95%
Yeah.
the rest.
Yeah.
Before we kind of take some questions, just to kind of drive home some tips that we think are really important to take away. Define your USP, your unique selling point. We talked about that in the beginning, and that's something you have. You control it, and you can you can tell the world what that is, and it's on your terms. Nani is doing your research.
Doing your research, absolutely, and make sure that you're prepared to meet the person that you are going to meet in your communication, and know about what they do, show how you can be a part of their program, and don't waste your time sending generic emails to people that you don't know.
Yeah, and make and keep friends.
Yeah,
friends will keep us all alive.
yeah,
Be memorable for the right reasons. So being memorable, it may not take much effort, but you just have to be memorable. You know, you need to be the band that wowed the crowd and made everyone go crazy,
yeah.
not the band that forgot their drum kit. You know, because there are different ways of being
Yes.
memorable, and you want to be memorable for the good reasons. You know,
Yeah.
and of course, what does no mean?
Well, no
Not
means
yet.
not yet, but yeah, don't pester people, but just be persistent and polite, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
drive the message through in a nice way.
Great. Nani, have you got some questions in the chat? Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing.
No, I
the
actually
screen.
asked people to write questions in the chat, and I've got an answer saying that we've already answered all the questions.
Oh, fantastic.
It's like,
Okay.
I'm just going to share with you a little gift that I have for you, special for today.
Oh,
If you want to take my course, Why DIY Music, you could do it today for 50% off, and this offer is available for 48 hours only. So the normal fee for the course is 189 euros, and you can get it for 94.50 if you register within the next 48 hours, and that's on ydiymusic.com. And the course includes 17 lessons. It's a yearly program that will take you through everything you need to know about the music business, and also how to produce your own materials on a budget, how to communicate with programmers, how to do booking, how to maximize valuable touring, both financially and audience-wise, how to do crowdfunding, how to build a fan base, how to have a successful mailing list. All these things are explained. Of course, PR and social media are included as well. And the most important thing about the course is that we have a community of professionals that have access to the back end of the website. And Steve is, by the way, one of the members. And if you have any questions and you want to consult with someone from our community, you can put your questions in the back end community, and they will be monitored and answered by wonderful professionals such as Steve and Rosa and other lovely people that are good friends.
it's a great place to go and check that out. There's some great information there. I've just seen a question in the chat that asks for tips for speed meetings.
Oh yeah,
my
that's
3
good.
tips. And I mean, I've got some of these tomorrow with some people coming to Jazz I Am. And I would say my number 1 tip is don't talk all the time. Have a
Listen.
two-way conversation, because quite often I end up signing up for these things and I sit there for 10 minutes and listen to what people are saying, and we don't get a conversation. So leave space is big number 1 tip. Number 2 tip, I would say, don't expect everything in that 10 minutes. Just set the groundwork, just make the spark. And number 3 tip is be memorable. Make me remember you.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say listen is probably the most important thing. And make a research about the person that you're meeting in advance, and don't start to ask them, where are you from or what do you do, because that will be not counterproductive. It will look to them, of course, like you're not serious about what you do. But also, you when professionals come to speed meetings, they don't only see you, so they see 20 people after the other. And I've done meetings like that myself when I was hosting. And to have to introduce yourself 20 times on the course of 2 hours is tiring for the other party. So try to make it easy for them rather than making it easier for you. Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes left, and we've got a little game that, and I don't know if anyone wants to play this, but if any of you were here at the start when you saw Nani and I meet each other for the first time, how it happened, I'd wondered if there's any musicians or artists in the webinar that want to play that game and be the person who meets me for the first time. If you want to play that, we've got a couple of minutes to do it once. And I'd say, just let me know, have a reaction, send a reaction in the webinar now. If you are someone who would like to have a little go at that, it's just a fun thing to finish off the webinar. If we don't have anyone, that's fine.
Yes, Sasso is
Can you
saying,
try?
can I try?
Sasso.
Yeah, go on.
So Ellie, are we able to let Sasso into the webinar? And hopefully we'll...
Yes, we're working on it.
We're working on
Okay,
it.
thank
Great.
you.
About 30 seconds, I guess. It'll...
Okay, so what Sasso
work.
hopefully is going to do, Sasso is going to end up pretending to be getting into a lift in a hotel at a conference like Jazz I Am, and Sasso meets me for the first time and thinks, oh, this person runs a jazz festival and I want to play at it. How am I going to start a conversation with him? And I have 20 seconds stuck in a lift with him. That is ideally the game. If we could get Sasso into the webinar.
So present us with your elevator pitch, basically.
Yes, it's your that's why elevator pitches are called elevator pitches, obviously, because you are stuck in an elevator. There's nothing worse than being stuck in a lift with me, as Nani will testify. But if you've got 20 seconds, at least you've got a chance.
We almost have it.
There you go. Hey,
there
Sasso.
we go.
So can we turn your microphone and your camera on, Sasso? Because we want to see your gorgeous face and hear your lovely voice, I think.
Let's see.
Hello. Sasso is a bit shy. Are you there, Sasso? Can you say something? Can't hear you.
It's getting there.
Sasso can hear us, but we can't hear you. So,
we're figuring it out.
He says I can hear you, but we need to hear
you
because you need to present your elevator.
A conversation needs two people. Yeah. So. There he is.
Hey,
the glorious Sasso. Here he is. Welcome to Sasso. Welcome to the webinar. I
love the plants in the background.
yeah. So Sasso, hello. How are you? Oh, we can't hear you. We need to hear Sasso. Maybe have you got a microphone to turn on or a setting? Isn't technology great? I love technology.
It could be better.
I
was born too early. I should have been born when everything was already working well without fluctuation.
We still can't hear you, Sasso.
Yeah. You need to unmute. There you go. Now you're unmuted.
Hello.
Can you say something?
Let's see.
Hola.
Sorry about that. We're working on it.
That's okay. It's no worries. I mean, I'm sure Sasso is speaking great wisdom. We just can't hear him. And if we get it fixed in the next minute,
we can. Maybe you can write the elevator pitch.
It seems like the issue might be with Sasso's computer. It seems like maybe you have to unmute yourself or connect a microphone.
Yeah, he's already.
I think he's done that already. Yeah. You know, Sasso, he's doing really well. He's done everything right so far. It's not his fault. You know, he's trying his best. There's a lot of pressure on you, Sasso.
Okay, you can also write.
Of people
he's a brave volunteer. He jumped up. He jumped in first.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's a lesson for everyone. Don't be first at anything. It's going to go wrong. Learn from someone else's mistake first.
Don't listen to what he says. It's always good to be first.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, it seems
we've run out of time. But hey, we all got to meet Sasso and his living room and his lovely blue wall and his plants. Sasso, sorry that didn't work, but
thank you so
much.
We
will meet sometime.
Yes,
hopefully next year in Barcelona.
Yeah. Ellie, we'll hand back to you now.
Sorry about that. We know that Zoom sessions are very tight with time and they're limited, but thank you, Sasso, and especially thank you to Steve and Noem. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much for having us.
Inspiring and much needed workshop, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, everyone. Have a great.
And now we'll head back to the Milano Jazz Club because we're going to see the second showcase of this year's Jazz I Am. And afterwards, we'll have a break, a 30-minute break to grab lunch and digest all of the information from this morning's session. So just go click on the next link and fasten your seatbelts because the second showcase is about to start.
Good luck, keep calm, and DIY.